What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? I just want to make another video. It's been a while since I made a video. You know, hope all is well. I just want to talk about this topic. I notice a lot of us, including myself, it's so much negative content on these YouTube streets. I think what's stopping us from trying to enjoy life, we consume too much negative content, whether it's content about the economy, the job market, the dating crisis, what's going on overseas. I find it funny. We run from the news, the mainstream news, just to run to YouTube or other social media platforms just to receive more negative news or content. Because like I said a long time ago about the news, negative entertainment weapon system. It seems like the negative entertainment weapon system made its way to YouTube. You got content creators, they talking about all kind of negative stuff. People doom scrolling, we all guilty of it. Like doom scrolling, whether you're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you're doom scrolling. I think the problem is too many people consuming negative content. Whether it's stuff going on up, like as soon as you turn on YouTube, you see content like this. Oh, people about to get laid off. So and so passed away, woman ain't this, men ain't this, men giving up on society. It's like, all generational content about the millennials, Gen X, Gen Z. It's so much negative content on these YouTube streets, and I'm sure it's like that on other platforms, but most people consume YouTube more than the mainstream media these days. YouTube is the new television. Most people these days, they don't have cable. You still have a few people that have cable, but the majority of people in modern society consume YouTube. And there's so much negative content on YouTube. I think if we consume too much negative content, we start to perceive life that way. Like if you're a man, you consume all this red pill content about women, or women ain't this, you're gonna start viewing all women as a negative knight. Same thing with you women. You watch all this content about how men ain't this and men giving up. There's a lot of damaged people out there already. So when you consume so much negative content, it's just gonna cause you to lack trust. And I know, like, you gotta have your guard up when it comes to dealing with people, because society is in a fallen state. It all started when an event happened in 2020. Most people, they don't trust people, and rightfully so. It's hard to trust people. You got to keep your guard up, because there's a lot of snakes out there. There's a lot of backbite snakes, manipulators. Sadly, it's hard to make friends. It's hard to make sincere friends or get into sincere relationships, because everybody got a motive, and that's sad. You're not supposed to either. When it comes to friendship, it's either a motive or transactional, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. But what I'm saying is, all this negative content on YouTube, I think sometimes you have to detox from it. I think a social media detox is the best thing to do. Like, ignore the negative content, pursue other content. Say, like, if you see that on your YouTube feed about, like, oh, people about to get laid off, job crisis or dating crisis or whatever, watch other content. Look for other content to view. There's a lot of content you could view on there. There's too much negativity, and I understand you gotta have it balanced out. You're not gonna be positive all the time, just like you can't be negative all the time. You gotta have some glimmer of positivity in you. You know what I mean? You gotta balance it out. You don't want to over exaggerate one of the other, if they make any sense. That makes any sense. But yeah, I noticed that. I just noticed that for past few, and in the year not even that young, according to them, the Westerners, is their new year, because the real new year don't begin till spring. You know, I find it ironic how people on the other side of the world get the real new year correct. You know, on the eastern side of the world, but on the western side of the world, they want to flip things backwards. You know, everything is backwards in the Western society. You know, just like in the eastern side of the world, on the east side of the world, people read from right to left. But in Western society, they teach us to read from left to right. You know, everything is backwards. Even the roads, like in some foreign countries, they drive on the right side of the road, like the steering wheel is on the right side. But in most Western countries, the steering wheel on the left side. Everything reversed, man. Everything reversed. It's all a bunch of mind games and stuff. But yeah, man, all this negative content, man, I think it'll affect your psyche. It could do something to you psychologically if you overconsume it. Yeah, it's something to think about. And I noticed that that's a big problem with Gen Z. They doom scroll, and a lot of us millennials too. You know, it ain't just Gen Z. You know, it's all generations that could doom scroll. You know, it ain't just exclusive to one generation. But yeah, all this negative content on here, you gotta take a break from that. You know, I know things. You know, things ain't peaches and cream right now in the world. You know, but you gotta be grateful for what you got. You know, if you're working, if you got a job, man, be grateful. Don't quit your job. Don't quit till you find something better. You know, if you're tired of working a certain job, yeah, cause man, you know, you just gotta keep your head on a swivel out there. You gotta keep your head on a swivel. You know, but yeah, all this negative content ain't gonna do you no good. I'm speaking in general. You know. Sometimes you gotta detox from that nonsense. And you gotta understand, some of these content creators that dish out negative content, they grifters. You know, they doing it for a hustle. You know, especially in the so-called red pill community, you know, the MGTOW, you know, some of these dudes talking about they swearing off women, they lying to themselves, they lying to their viewers. These same red pill guys, these so-called MGTOW dudes, they probably tricking on women. They probably getting tricks, you know. They probably still dealing with women on the side. But they tell their viewers, oh man, write off all women. Don't deal with women. Women ain't this, women ain't that. You know. Same thing with these women that want to swear off men. Talking about they don't need a man. You know, in a deep down inside, they still desire to be with a man. That's human nature. You know, because the Bible says it ain't good for man to be alone, you know. You know, straight up. Whether you believe in it or not, humans are not meant to be alone, you know. We supposed to be, and we don't have a sense of community no more. All this individualism, you know, the way the world, I find it ironic they call it social media, but social media making humanity more antisocial. You know, ever since the so-called pandemic happened in 2020, people just been distancing each other. It's like, yeah. But I understand, you know, you gotta be careful out there because, you know, you don't want to get caught up. You know, but I just want to make this short video, you know, and upload it to my main channel. You know, yeah, but like, try to take a break from watching all that negative content. You know, there's positive content, and we've been so, like, society been so bamboozled to think that's all it is negative in life. And when we see positive content, it's like we cringe at it. Some people cringe. We don't view it, you know, as a good thing. We just, because we're so used to the negative nonsense. But all right, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.